Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your Royal Rumble 2015 preview and predictions.
God, I am so excited for this show. What's up, guys? John here, aka VocalAggression, coming at you with Royal Rumble 2015 preview predictions with my cohort and commentary, Ashton. And dude, I know, we are this close to embarking on the road to WrestleMania. I am so stoked.
Absolutely. This is the best time of year, but it is worth noting this is also the best time of year for heartbreak because I don't know if you guys remember or are familiar with this or not, but someone posted on Reddit they were excited for this year because it would be the end of a trilogy, and they posted the first 2 episodes of it was a YouTube video, Fat Kid throwing a tantrum over the Royal Rumble or something like that, where 2 years ago he was freaking out because The Rock beat CM Punk for the WWE title, and last year he was freaking out because of Batista beating Roman Reigns. And I think that we're going to get a 3rd year in a row this year of the Fat Kid freaking out at the Royal Rumble.
Oh man, should be a fun time. And yeah, dude, when you look at this card, I think the 2 most intriguing matches are, of course, the Royal Rumble match as it is every year, but definitely, I think the most intriguing, oddly enough, the WWE World Heavyweight Championship triple threat match between John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and Seth Rollins. Everybody is buzzing with all sorts of different predictions about that match. So yeah, there's a lot of compellingness and intrigue going into this show.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, dude? Unless you have anything that you want to get off your chest before we get into the meat of this sandwich, I'm ready.
Let's get into the meat of the sandwich, brother. I have been dying to have these conversations with you, so let's get started.
All right, we're going to start with our actual predictions, and we'll start with the kickoff show, The New Day versus Tyson Kidd, Cesaro, and Adam Rose.
Not really much of a story here, but for those that saw the 6-man tag on an episode of WWE Main Event that these 2 teams had, I mean, they put on a real barn burner, and the idea that there is now an elimination stipulation, they have a chance to potentially exceed that bar. Will they? Ashton, personally, I'm not too convinced. If you remember, you and I had a conversation about this match, and I actually mused that New Day is going to have a clean sweep, and I think now that we're here, I'm going to stick by that prediction. I think New Day is going to dominate this match.
Man, I don't know. I think that Xavier Woods, at the very least, is going to get eliminated because he's dealing with a bit. From what I understand, at least, he has an ankle injury going on.
Ah, okay.
So I think that he is going to get eliminated. If not, then the other 2 are just going to run roughshod, but I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that the New Day is still going to win, but I think that they're going to be at a 2-3 disadvantage early on.
Right.
But I do agree with you that the New Day is going to win.
So yeah, we both agree New Day's going to win, and I really have nothing else to say about this. I mean, it's 6 talents that I think it's the consensus that deserve a lot better than what they're doing, but hopefully they can really show everybody what they're made of with this match if they're permitted enough time, which you'd have to assume they are given the rules. So yeah, hopefully it's good.
Right. I mean, it's probably safe to assume because this is a kickoff match and because this is the only kickoff match, it's probably safe to assume that they're going to get at least 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
so, New Day for the win.
Like you did say, though, I kind of doubt it'll live up to the standard that it set for itself on Main Event because that was awesome. All right. That's, I mean, hey, that's the kickoff. We have 3 matches on the main card. 4. No, it is 3. It is 3. And then we have the one big one and then the Rumble match, which we're going to do a whole bunch of other stuff for other than just predict the winner. So as far as the main card goes, I would say that the least relevant match is probably the Ascension versus the New Age Outlaws.
I would agree with that. You know, interesting circumstances surrounding this match. You know that the Ascension have been proclaiming that they're better than the Road Warriors, than Demolition, than all those other teams. JBL in particular on commentary has said, you know, how dare they be so disrespectful, that they haven't beaten anybody. They've pretty much all but been here for a cup of coffee, and it's just been this whole thing. Then, of course, on the Go Home Raw, it was the Go Home Raw, or it was Raw Reunion, right? Or were they the same thing? Was Raw Reunion the Go Home show for Rumble?
Yes.
Yes, it was. Okay. Then on Raw Reunion, we know the whole angle they did. You know, New Age Outlaws put in the boots to the Ascension, and all the legends just watching and having fun at their expense. So, and to me, the interesting thing is the dichotomy here, because for me, I really believe the Ascension's winning. I think that Billy Gunn's going to eat the pin here after getting the fall of man, and the Ascension is going to be the New Age Outlaws. And then what I see happening is JBL making the concession. Okay, maybe this team is worth something more than I've been saying about them. Maybe I should give them more credit. But you actually, in our conversations, you seem to be kind of waffling a little bit, but you have actually given a credulity to the idea that the New Age Outlaws may win by heelish tactics.
Yeah,
So where are you now?
let me really I'm because I've seen so many people who and this even includes good mic work, who I like to think has one of the more sound minds for the business on YouTube. So many people are saying that if the Ascension doesn't win this match, that they got buried. And I just completely disagree with that. They've been buried whether they win this match or not.
Right, yeah.
But winning or losing this match is not going to make a difference, because if they win, they beat the New Age Outlaws. These guys, one of them's 51 years old. The other one can barely move. Who cares? And if the New Age Outlaws win, I do think that it'll be by some kind of like a heel tactic, whether it's grabbing the tights or feet up on the ropes or illegal tag or something, some kind of like an old school kind of thing like that, where they'll do it and they'll get cheered for it because they're going against a team that nobody likes.
Right, right.
But either way, I don't think it makes a difference for the Ascension, because either they're beating a tag team that, I mean, they were tag champs last year, sure, but they also got absolutely squashed at WrestleMania. And if they lose, then it's that same team, but at least they have an excuse for losing, and then they get that first loss out of the way nice and early, so we don't have to worry about them getting built up as this big undefeated team, and then their first loss is this big devastating thing where nobody saw it coming.
Right, I totally get where you're coming from there. To me, see, here's the thing. I've even tried to be more careful about using terms like buried and this and that, because it is one of the terms that in the internet sphere of wrestling fans I think has been grossly abused. So I always try and be careful when using such terminology. But I mean, the Ascension certainly haven't come in the way that I thought they would. I personally think that they should get the win. Is it going to be the greatest harm done to them if they lose? Absolutely not, for the reasons that you stated. But I do think it would just be better if the Ascension do get the win here. And ultimately, again, my end game for them, and I think you would agree with this, but I'm not going to say for certain, is, again, beating the Usos for the tag titles at Mania and getting their Mania moment nice and early, becoming tag team champions.
See, and the problem that I have with that logic is that you're implying that a heel tag team is going to get a WrestleMania moment.
Well, I mean, WrestleMania moment, I don't really think it's heel or face specific. It's just doing something great at WrestleMania.
I really do think that it's a face thing to get your WrestleMania moment.
I have to disagree with that there, but that's not really, I think, a debate that I want to have at this particular point in time. But regardless, I do think the Ascension will nab those tag titles at WrestleMania. So yeah, Ascension for the win for now, just to kind of build them up.
And I agree. I did also pick the Ascension, but I did want to kind of specify, if the Outlaws do win, I'm not going to be like super angry about it. I'm not going to be devastated. I'm not going to write the Ascension off or anything like that. It's just, it's just whatever at this point. Up next, the next least relevant match is the Bella Twins versus Natalya and Paige. And honestly, believe it or not, this is the match that I had the most difficult time picking.
First, just a quick side note. I just realized how many tag matches are on this card.
There is not a single singles match on this show.
That's crazy. But more importantly, see, and here's the thing. I was actually quite the opposite view of you here. I personally thought it was the easiest call for me personally, that I think Natalya and Paige are going to pull this off, because to me, there's really no reason why the Bellas have to win. I mean, the Divas Championship is not at stake. So Nikki essentially has really no risk in this match.
Right. I mean, I want to be clear. I did end up going with Natalya and Paige, but I could see the Bella Twins winning and that leading to some tension between Natalya and Paige.
Yeah, that's true too. And see, that's the weird thing, because even I've said that I feel like Paige and Natalya are set to have a program with each other.
Right.
So it would make more sense for the catalyst of that program to be a loss. So I totally understand where you're coming from, because even by going by my own logic, it would make sense. But maybe they'll get there by another road because we still have, a few weeks of actual television, then Fastlane, then a few weeks of television, after that before WrestleMania. So maybe they'll find another route. For the time being, though, I am going to have to say that I think that they are going to get the win, and I'm going to be even more specific. I think Paige will get the submission win on Nikki with the PTO. So now Natalia's kind of gotten, wins over the Bellas. Paige has
Okay,
as
well, if
well.
we're being
I
more
think it's fine.
specific, I'm going to just say Paige gets the pinfall victory over Nikki.
Yeah, I just think personally why I go that far is I think it's going to set up a dynamic where we have a large pool of Divas Championship contenders, kind of like last year with that whole invitational. Maybe a bit smaller than that, but yeah, it's going to be a larger pool this year, I think, for WrestleMania, which is a shame because I'd really actually just like a 1-to-1 match one year between
Right,
two legit great athletes, but it is what it is.
right, yeah. I'm waiting for the day when we can get Paige versus Sasha Banks for the WWE Divas Championship at WrestleMania.
Oh, so good.
Since we did agree on that, there's no real discussion worth having there. We can move on to our. I guess it's the most important of the least important stuff. The Usos versus The Miz and Damian Mizdow. I don't think there's any question that the Usos are going to win this.
Yeah, let me make one thing perfectly clear to everybody. I think this match solely exists as a storyline vehicle, or at least the first part of the dissension between Miz and Mizdow. I think it starts in this match and it carries through over to the Royal Rumble, which maybe we'll talk about, a bit later, the
Right.
context of that whole feud. So yeah, Usos are definitely retaining here. Honestly, aside from Mizdow potentially making the clean break or at least starting it on this night, I really don't care about this match. I'm pretty much done with this feud. I'm almost done with the Usos altogether, to be honest. So yeah, they'll retain, and God knows how long this reign will go on. I'm hoping it ends at WrestleMania, but we'll see.
My friend, I've been done with the Usos altogether since about July.
Yeah, so I think I'm just about ready to join your club there. I hear you got wonderful T-shirts, so
Yeah, we have cake too, so
oh, so good.
yeah. But yeah, Usos win, LOL, and that's it for the undercard. We only have 2 matches left, and they're the 2 big matches.
Oh God, here we go, brother.
Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and the Royal Rumble match itself. And before we talk about either one of them, I want to know, John, what do you think will main event this show?
Um, I think the Royal Rumble will definitely. So yeah, there's no concern for me for that. You?
I honestly think that the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match will main event this show.
And you know what? I can understand why you'd feel that way. Hell, it wouldn't be the first time that a Royal Rumble wasn't the main event at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. In fact, if I remember correctly,
The Rock
2000,
versus CM Punk.
The Rock versus CM Punk, but even further back than that, just to really show the precedent was established, I was thinking of 2006 when Rey Mysterio won. That wasn't what closed the show. What closed the show actually was Kurt Angle versus Mark Henry for the World Heavyweight title because of the return of the Undertaker.
Yeah.
So because Brock Lesnar's a part of this match, I can totally see that being justification enough for that being the headliner. So yeah, and hell, dude, WWE likes to make a big production of things. You get your Royal Rumble winner, then you have your main event championship match, and you have a stare-down confrontation between the two to close the show. Since there's only one belt, there's no ambiguity about where they're going to go on the road to WrestleMania.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Is that not crazy though that we're both kind of agreeing that I think it's going to happen for sure, but you're at least giving it credence.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a
Exactly.
possibility. But honestly, I think the reason that I think it's going to happen is because it seems like the WWE likes to end their shows with their special attractions. And I think that they view Brock Lesnar as more of a special attraction than the Rumble itself.
And I could certainly see why you'd feel that way. Hell, again, if they felt that The Undertaker was that way in the year I was thinking of, and The Rock that way in the year that you were
In
thinking of,
2013, yeah.
in 2013, then Brock Lesnar certainly fits that mold. So you absolutely have reason to believe as you do.
Yeah.
So, um, so I guess what match do you want to talk about first then?
Well, obviously, we're still going to save whether we think it's going to go on last or not. We're still going to save our Royal Rumble discussion for last. So let's talk about the championship match now.
Oh God! First and foremost, let me just say that in the course of leading up to all of this, I think Seth Rollins has done the best work of his career, at least as a singles competitor thus far since leaving the Shield.
Let's just put it this way. If championships were determined by quality of work during the hype of the match, Seth Rollins would be walking out of the Rumble with the title.
Absolutely. He has, and I was already a pretty big fan of Rollins with his work in the Shield and just what an amazing athlete he is. I'm in like markdom mode for Seth Rollins right now. It is scary how invested I am in him. However, I always like to put the brakes on when we do these and have a rational discourse. And that's the big question, Ashton. Why does Seth Rollins exist in the context of this match?
So that neither one of the other two guys has to get pinned.
And see, that's been the dominant view, that he is going to eat the pin, that he is going to be very game, very competitive, but still fodder.
Yes.
For one of the other guys. But then there's the follow-up question. If that's the case, does his briefcase even have any meaning in the context of this match? Or is that going to be held on? See, Seth Rollins is such a chaotic variable. It's ridiculous to me.
Well, I feel like you had a thought there, and you just.
Well, I mean, I'm just asking, like, is the briefcase even going to play a role, like, in the post-match at all? Or is that just going to be saved off?
See, I think that. No, I'm going to say no. Just straight up, flat out, no. I don't think it is. I think that they're teasing it, and I think that he might even attempt to cash it in, but somebody, maybe even the other person who got pinned in the match, will prevent him from cashing in.
See, now I'm not going to backtrack now because you know what I've been saying forever now. WrestleMania cash in, WrestleMania
exactly.
cash in, WrestleMania cash in.
And that's exactly why I'm saying that it's not going to happen here.
And you know what? I'm going to stick by what I've been saying, and I'm going to stick by you. I don't think Rollins is going to cash in, and I do think he's going to eat the pin, which leaves only one question left. Who emerges the winner?
And you know what, John? If you and I've been guilty of this far too often, but I'm not going to let myself be guilty of it this time. If you allow yourself to overthink this match, you will have such a difficult time trying to pick. You'll waffle your ass off. But I decided to go with my gut, to go with what I believe the WWE to be, and that is stubborn sons of guns. They're keeping the title on Brock until Mania.
And see, I have to agree with you. It is such an internal struggle. As you said, you've been guilty of it. I've certainly been guilty of it with how much crow I've eaten since we've been doing this together. But I'm not going to let myself get overly panicked. Lesnar is keeping that championship. I still believe, well, we'll get to the other half of the blueprint later, but I think the first half is certainly Brock Lesnar as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He is walking out with this thing, but I got to give WWE credit. I can't remember the last time I was this excited for a world title match and felt like it had this much intrigue, this much suspense going into it. And I think Rollins being added into it did it a huge service. And these three guys, all in their own way, I think have done a great job really promoting this, especially, of course, for me, Lesnar and Rollins, especially Lesnar on the go-home Raw before Rumble. He was fantastic with how he dominated.
Yeah.
And I just love how all the stories have come together. You don't know what Paul Heyman's going to do. He's somebody I've been thinking about. But yeah, I'm glad that you and I didn't let it get too far ahead of us, and we're just saying that Brock Lesnar's going to retain.
Absolutely. I love that we are seeing eye to eye here. Honestly, I think that this might be the least predictable Royal Rumble that fans think is unpredictable. Or I'm sorry, the most predictable Royal Rumble that fans think is unpredictable.
See, and yeah, you kind of shared those sentiments with me like a day or two ago, and I found that interesting. But we'll get more into that, I think, with the discussion of our next match. Do you have anything else you want to say about the triple threat, though? Because I don't want to rush anything. So
it's funny because I was under the impression that we would have a long, drawn-out discussion about this, where we would really hash it out and really talk about, like, well, maybe they'll go with Cena, or maybe this guy will win and Rollins will cash in. But we both agree Rollins is not cashing in. Lesnar's winning. That's it.
Right.
I love it. Yeah. So, hey, are you ready to get into our Royal Rumble discussion?
Now, this is where I think a discussion will take place. Let's do it, brother. I am so ready for this.
Okay. For those of you that are only joining Team TwitWow since we started putting our podcasts on YouTube, which was around May of 2014. We started a tradition last year that we're going to do every year for the Royal Rumble, where we make picks, and I ripped this directly off of Podswoggle. So if you're a fan of wrestling podcasts, if you enjoy TwitWow, stay tuned to us, but go check out Podswoggle because those guys are awesome. We make picks for certain elements of the Royal Rumble, including a winner, and we assign confidence points. It's I don't know, some of you might be football fans, and I know for a fact that most newspapers have a little section where you can pick each football game over the weekend, and if it's like 18 or 19 or 20 games, and if there are 20 games, you say that I'm the most confident about this team beating that team, and you give that game a 20-point confidence rank. Well, for us, we have 11 categories. So we had 11 potential points, point values, I should say. And so it would add up total to, let's see, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 66. 65 or 66, something like that. Total points. Whoever finishes the Royal Rumble with the most points wins. And we have our categories. Our first two categories are who we think is going to come out at number 1 and number 2. And I have this at no specific order because if you say one of us picks Daniel Bryan, if Bryan comes out at 1 or 2, that would count as correct then. And that's 2 separate slots then. Who we think is going to come out at number 30, who's going to spend the least amount of time in the ring or in the Rumble between entering the ring and being eliminated, who's going to spend the most amount of time in the Rumble, who's going to have the most eliminations. Then we have 4 separate slots for our final 4, and then the 11th slot is who we think is going to win the Royal Rumble. So, John, are you ready?
Absolutely, brother. Let's do it.
All right, let's start at the top. Numbers 1 and 2 entering into the Royal Rumble. Who do you think the 2 most likely guys are to enter at 1 or 2?
Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler for me.
And what are your point values?
My point values, I put a 6 on Daniel Bryan entering number 1. Dolph Ziggler being the second entrant for, I put 5 points to that.
So. Again, though, we're not worried about whether it's 1 or 2.
Not worried about actual order, but just any name that comes out on those sides, that'd be correct. So, okay. But I have 6 and 5 points, so yes.
Okay. So you had 6 on who?
6 on Daniel Bryan, 5 on Ziggler.
Okay. Ziggler 5 and Daniel Bryan 6. I didn't put that many points on this because it's really difficult. To me, I'm looking at it as either one of these guys has a 1 in 15 shot of being the number 1 or number 2 spot. So I chose to not put a ton of points on it. I personally chose Dolph Ziggler. I put 4 points on Dolph Ziggler being one of the first 2 entrants in the Royal Rumble. And I put 1 point on Rusev being one of the first 2 entrants into the Royal Rumble.
Very interesting. I like that, though. I like that dynamic that you've set up.
And I would definitely prefer it, obviously, if they came out 1 and 2 respectively, because I think it makes sense when you think about the Authority trying to punish Ziggler, Ryback, Rowan, and, well, I guess Rowan's not even going to be in it, but and also Daniel Bryan, of course, because he's kind of in that group as well. But I think that. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a possibility that they could both be entered. And I think that you also have that state of mind where you think the Authority is going to try and punish Ziggler and Bryan by making them fight each other.
Oh, absolutely. I think knowing that we have a heel power structure in place, I could definitely see them using that as a tactic to kind of pit these 2 against each other and to wear them down for, the people that they're more favorable towards.
Right. All right. You know what? Since you went first the last time, I'll go first this time, and we'll just kind of go back and forth. The number 30 entrant, I have Randy Orton entering at number 30, and I have 5 points on that.
That's actually very smart because I think they would want a nice pop to be the last number, and Randy Orton, I think, would make the arena explode, so I really like your pick. Me, I hope this doesn't pan out. I guess only in the context of the contest, obviously, I wanted to be right. But as a fan, I actually would prefer your option. I actually picked the Big Show being the number 30 entrant. I gave 7 points to that.
Wow,
Uh,
7 points. You're really loading up early.
I think the Authority is going to put a lot of stock in him. He's been boasting about how he's the biggest man, but a little bit of an advantage never hurt anybody, no matter how big you are. I could definitely see Big Show being number 30 and kind of clean house and doing whatever.
See, I dig your logic there for sure. Okay. Randy Orton for me, 5 points. Big Show for you, 7. Who do you think is going to have the least amount of time in the Royal Rumble?
A returning Heath Slater.
Nice. Okay, I can dig that. We both actually have returns as our least amount of time here.
Interesting. Oh, just so you know, I only put 1 point of confidence in that, though, because I know Heath Slater recently got over his legal issues, but I don't know if they're going to want him in the Rumble match, so we'll have to wait and see.
I like that. I like that. I only put 2 points of confidence in my least amount of time pick, so I think it's safe to say that this is probably one of the most difficult ones to pick because honestly, generally it tends to be somebody that hasn't even been announced prior.
Right.
So I had Bo Dallas with 2 points.
That is so perfect. He spends all this time pandering and Bo leaving on his own, and somebody just eliminates him. I think,
Exactly.
yeah, I love it, dude. Love it.
And then he does a victory lap because he still feels like he won even though he lost.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is moving along a little bit quicker than I expected it to. Who will spend the most amount of time in the Royal Rumble? I put 6 points on Dolph Ziggler.
Makes so much sense. He's known for kind of being the new, I guess, kind of 60-minute man with
The
how long
Iron
he
Man,
goes.
yeah. I mean, he
Yeah.
for a while there, and I believe 2010 or 2011, he was double duty in every pay-per-view.
Now, I'm taking a bigger gamble here,
Oh boy.
given his recent health issues. I'm putting a whopping 9 points on Daniel Bryan spending the most amount of time in the Royal Rumble.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It's a risk because, I mean, as you pointed out to me, we're kind of hashing this out. You're like, John, he does have those neck issues, and I don't know if WWE kind of really sees it as a liability,
Right?
overexposure in a match like this. But you know what? I'm putting the chips down. I think Daniel Bryan, because he's such a fan favorite and he's such a mainstay for this kind of thing with his whole story. Yeah, he is going to spend a good chunk of time in the Rumble, so much so that I think he'll have the most amount of time. So we'll see
You
what
know what though,
happens.
John? If you really think about it, the fact that he has been getting thrown around and ragdolled by Bray Wyatt and Kane over the course of the last 10 days or so, and they were using that as a bit of a litmus test and trying to see just how well that neck was going to hold up so that they could see if he could go the distance in the Rumble.
Right, right.
I could definitely see that happening. I think we both have. Honestly, I think those are the two most likely guys, Ziggler and Bryan, to be the most amount of time. I think that a couple of sort of kind of dark horse candidates for that, though, Dean Ambrose and Luke Harper, I think, is going to have a sneaky good year this year.
So Luke Harper, I think, is going to be one of those mid-card performers akin to like a Cody Rhodes or a Finlay at
Yeah,
time, where he'll spend like 27 or 30 minutes in the Rumble.
yeah,
He's gonna be in there a while.
yeah,
Definitely, completely agree.
exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like a dark horse candidate to be the most. Okay, speaking of the most, though, the most eliminations. And John, you're going first on this. I'm looking forward to finding out who you picked.
Leave the memories alone. God, this brings me back to last year. I'm picking Roman Reigns for the most eliminations, and I gave 8 points to it.
See, and I knew I was. See, I shouldn't say I knew because you've been relatively unpredictable here, but I was hoping you would pick him because, in my opinion, that is the safe route.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I
That's
completely agree.
that's the guy that you want to pick if you are interested in playing the odds.
Right.
I went a little riskier. I only put 3 points on it, but I put it on somebody that's not even announced for the Rumble yet.
Ooh. Okay.
I think Sheamus is going to have the most.
Oh, Sheamus, yeah, because you and I have been talking about him quite a bit lately. I don't know so much in the context of well, but certainly in our general wrestling conversations that we have, Sheamus has been a topic that comes up semi-frequently. And yeah, he is going to be the most interesting guy, or yeah, definitely one of the most interesting guys to watch in the Rumble because he may be healing it up, he may be beasting it. I don't know what
I
he's going
am
to
I
do.
am officially predicting Sheamus will come back as a heel.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. So yeah,
And it might even be one of those things where he shows up and he does the chest pounding and he's pandering to the crowd, but then he acts like a heel in the match, or maybe he just doesn't act like a pure like John Cena level baby face, and he does a few things like going after a couple of baby faces that the crowd doesn't like, and they start booing him, and then maybe he comes out on the next Raw and he cuts a promo on, well, I was trying to do what was best for me, but I guess you guys just don't like that, so I guess it's time for me to go into business for myself.
yeah, definitely. And honestly, if Sheamus comes back heel and does some of the things that I'm thinking he may do at the Rumble, the biggest of which I've said to you in general conversation, he may even eliminate Daniel Bryan. Sorry,
That's
Daniel Bryan
exactly
fans.
what I think is going to
Yeah.
happen. I do. I think Sheamus is going to be the one to eat that heat, and I have a little bit of like a mock-up WrestleMania card booked in my mind, and Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan is on there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I heard, and Brian even said in an interview, that's the match they wanted to do at WrestleMania 30, because they've had this whole history of doing matches at WrestleMania where they're slowly inching up the card, and then of course the whole 18-second controversy. So they were making a big story out of it apparently. And you said earlier that you think WWE is stubborn, and that's what made you kind of pick Lesnar because they may
Yep,
have a route in mind. If they wanted to do it at 30 and they caved, I don't think WWE is the type of corporation to cave in twice. So no matter how bad the fans may want something, you may just have to eat what they give you, so to speak. And we may get Sheamus and Bryan this year at Mania.
absolutely.
Again, not trying to start anything or troll. That's just my
No, no,
genuine
dude,
opinions.
that's exactly how I see it.
Yeah. So we'll see, man.
Okay. Just as a little bit of a recap, how many points did you put on Reigns having the most eliminations? Eight?
I 8 points.
Okay. All right. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. You know what? Rather than doing all four of these at the same time, I want you to tell me who your first person, who you put the least amount of confidence in to be in the final four is.
Who I put the least amount of confidence in. You're actually, I think, maybe a little bit surprised by this. I put 2 points behind them. My point allocation for these last two sections, Final Four and the winner, are ridiculous, but they are consistent, so no worries.
Okay.
Uh, Bray Wyatt, and I gave
I
2 points to this.
see. I can buy that. I can buy that. That's not super outside of the realm of possibility.
Right.
Um, and see, you and I are kind of the opposite because you put a lot of points on kind of the single guys. You put a lot of points on the Big Show being number 30 exactly. You put a lot of points on Daniel Bryan having the most amount of time exactly. I tried to only put the big point totals on the stuff where there's a kind of a bigger pool to choose from, like the final four and the numbers 1 and 2, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the least amount of points that I put on anybody to be in the final four was 7, and that was Sheamus.
Okay. Yeah, so you really see him having quite a performance for a comeback. I like
I
that.
think he's going to come back in the 24 to 30 range, and I think he's going to be in the final four. He might be the first person eliminated from the final four, but I do think he's going to get to it.
Yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from. I love it, dude. My next person in the fight. See, I really
Your
struggle with
next, yeah,
this.
your next highest
My next
confidence.
highest, and again, my point allocation is ridiculous. I only put 4 points behind this, but Randy Orton.
Okay,
Randy's
I
in the
like
final
it.
four. So yeah, who's your next highest? Or
Well, believe it or not, except the difference is I put twice as many points on it. I also have Randy Orton, but with 8 points on it.
okay, nice, nice. Not really much to say there. I mean, he's due to come back, and what better place than the Royal Rumble? I can't wait to hear his pop, dude. And
Well, hey, and
RKO's
remember, I
everywhere.
have I have 5 points on him coming out at number 30.
Right, right. So RKO's for everybody, man.
Yep.
My next high is over that. And see, here's where I guess I kind of played sort of smart. I tried to leave potentially the most obvious picks to be in the final four for the most points I used. For a whopping 10 points, I do see Big Show in the final four this year.
I love it. I love it. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest stories has been him saying that he's going to dominate in his confrontations with Reigns. Now, the inverse could be equally as true, right? He could come out and then Reigns could come out and really embarrass him early on. But I just think Big Show's going to dominate.
So wait
So,
a
yeah,
minute. Am I correct in saying that you only put 3 points in who you think is going to win?
that's correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
really weird.
my next highest is again we're twinsies here, bro. Big Show, but I have 9 points on him.
So I'm glad I'm not alone though in thinking Big Show's going to make the Final Four this year. It makes
Dude,
me
it's funny. I'm like 99% sure we have the exact same Final Four, save for the Sheamus Bray Wyatt situation where you have Wyatt, I have Sheamus.
yeah, because then after that I gave all my 11 points to Roman Reigns making the
Same
Final Four.
here, all 11, baby. High five.
Yeah, that was probably the safest bet, and I knew
I
that's where my
completely
11 points were
agree.
going to go.
Completely
Yeah,
agree. Yep.
and then as you can imagine, guy. Well, actually, no. Let's not jump the gun a little bit. Who do you have as your winner, Ashton? I'll give
I
that to
have
you first.
see. I put 21 points on this basically because I have Roman Reigns in my final four for 11 points, and I have Roman Reigns as my winner for 10 points.
And see, I have Roman Reigns as my winner for 3. Although, let me just say right now, subjectively speaking, everybody and their mother should know I want Orton to win. So we finally get Orton Lesnar. But yeah, we were talking about WWE stubbornness and the blueprint. I think your WrestleMania main event, and I know it's been this hotly contested debate on the internet, but I think it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
Absolutely. And you know what, dude? Here's the crazy thing. And this is, I knew this was going to get into a discussion. I don't think that is going to be the exact main event.
What? Well, what are
You
you
know
what are you
why?
thinking?
Well,
What's that?
let me just run down my little fantasy WrestleMania card for you. All right?
Okay,
Sting versus Triple H.
agreed.
I want you to speak up if you hear anything that you don't think is likely to happen. All right?
If I don't think that is like okay, okay,
Okay. Sting versus Triple H.
right.
Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well.
Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns.
Okay, yeah,
Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan.
yeah, definitely.
Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins.
Could definitely see that certainly.
The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal,
Yes,
which is going to suck up a ton of mid card talent.
yeah,
The Usos versus The Ascension.
yes.
And a Divas Championship match.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay. Who's missing, John?
I most notably right away saw that Dean Ambrose was missing.
He would be
And
in the Andre Memorial Battle Royal.
okay, then John Cena, I don't think I heard mentioned.
Exactly.
Wow.
Triple threat WWE World Heavyweight Championship WrestleMania main event, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns versus John Cena.
Okay, now that's a very interesting main event, but it lends itself to the obvious question: how does John Cena find himself in this?
Because he doesn't get pinned at the Royal Rumble, so he's still owed a shot.
Interesting.
Brock Lesnar pins Seth Rollins. Cena throws a hissy fit talking about how he was never pinned, he was never beaten. The Royal Rumble puts Brock Lesnar against somebody at Fastlane to make him earn number one contendership, and he wins that match and gets inserted into the main event at WrestleMania, making it a triple threat.
Interesting. And here's the thing: I'm not opposed to that. The biggest reason being, I think it definitely protects Reigns because I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Reigns if it is a one-on-one situation. I don't know how receptive fans would be to it, even though he is getting pops on this. I don't want to make it seem like he's universally hated, because he certainly isn't.
Right.
But I definitely think it'll give him some cushion and maybe even give him some support because you know the dichotomy that Cena creates.
And you know what's really hilarious too?
What's that?
I could see the Fastlane match for Cena to earn number one contendership being him and Orton.
Yeah. I mean, every time I get screwed. But yeah, man, I have to say I dig where you're going with this. And admittedly, like my point allocation and just my all thoughts, it is very scatterbrained. I think the only most sensible thing that I did was Big Show for 10 points in the Final Four and Roman Reigns for 11 points in the Final Four. Right. Everything else, yeah, it does seem pretty random and scatterbrained, and I'll admit that. But I know it's this big debate. Is Daniel Bryan going to win? It is Roman Reigns. Hell, folks, if it makes you feel any better, and Ashton can vouch for this, I was even potentially entertaining, could Ziggler possibly win it? See, to me, I think you found, and again, I never want to speak for you. You know that, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I think you found this Royal Rumble to be far more predictable than people are giving, than giving credit for.
Yeah, because in my opinion, I think that this is an incredibly predictable Royal Rumble that people don't want to admit to themselves is predictable because people are in denial about how obvious it is that Reigns is winning this thing.
And see, I can, to a degree, understand why you'd feel that way. But then again, when you look at a field that has Roman Reigns, who definitely seems to be set up to be the next torchbearer, I mean, nobody can deny that. A returning Randy Orton, which we all believe is going to happen. Daniel Bryan, who's got the whole story and the
And
fans
you know
support.
what, though, dude? I think to me, the big thing with Daniel Bryan is he is in a really good position to actually make it to the WrestleMania card. But I think that with the loss to Bray Wyatt, the clean, well, maybe not completely clean, but the pinfall loss to Bray Wyatt on Raw was the nail in his coffin. He is not winning the Royal Rumble.
And see, it's very interesting that you feel that way. I mean, the only reason I was even entertaining it, and see, here's the thing: I would have entertained Ziggler a hell of a lot more than I even am now if it wasn't for this stupid firing angle kind of breaking up his momentum in my eyes a little bit. Because he was the sole survivor at Survivor Series, he was doing all this stuff with the Authority, winning multiple Intercontinental Championships and other programs with those. So he seems to have a lot of momentum. I actually was tempted to put him in my Final Four, but for whatever reason, I don't see him making it. I would mark the hell out if he did. I just don't see it. I think Bray has been on a freaking tear, and that's why I really gave him the final really big spot. But yeah, I mean, it's loaded with credible talent, so to speak, that I think could take it. But I do just still have to give it to Reigns. I think this is his time. I know not everybody is a fan of it, but we're all going to have to deal with it regardless of what side of the fence that you're on. So yeah, I think Reigns and Lesnar for WrestleMania, and hell,
Yeah.
I mean it's no secret. I don't have to be mum about it because we're not doing any future videos on it. I do think that Seth Rollins is going to cash in whoever the winner of that bout may be. So I think Seth Rollins is going to be laughing all the way to the bank, so to speak, to end it all anyway. So we'll see.
Laughing all the way to the Money in the Bank.
Oh, shiznap. But yeah, that's really where I am, man. I mean, Rumble is going to be so interesting. Again, anybody just kind of hype yourselves up for what me and Ash are capable of. Go back and watch last year's, especially the Rumble match. We really get sucked into it. We love it. I think the contest that Ash explained the rules for, that makes it so much fun. And our point allocations and all that stuff. It's just going to be a great time, and you guys aren't going to want to miss it. And yeah, I think it was a great discussion that we had here. I think this card really is going to lay down the road to WrestleMania, and it's just so weird to me. And I'm still not. I still haven't entirely processed that we're getting our main event. When this fades to black, because there's only one title now and everything else. We're gonna know what the main event to WrestleMania is by the time
Yep.
this goes off the air.
It
So
is kind of crazy to think about because we're kind of so used to the elimination chamber mindset where it doesn't really matter who wins the Royal Rumble because for the longest time, whoever got eliminated last went into WrestleMania with a championship.
right, right. And you know what? I actually prefer it this way. I do. I like that there's only one title. There's no ambiguity. We're not going to waste time on, oh, who's he going to pick? Who's he going to? No, it's all we got a clear path, and I've just always loved it that way. So it's
Yep.
good that we're getting back to basics. Can't wait for this show, brother.
Absolutely. It's going to be a very, very interesting show. Um, Assuming they go with the stuff that we picked tonight, there are going to be a lot of heartbroken wrestling fans talking on the web.
You know it. Oh man, I am not looking forward to that backlash.
I am. It's going to be amazing. Dude, you don't get it. Like, the amount of crap that people are putting up on Reddit and YouTube and Twitter and just the amount, and Facebook even, tweet off, the amount of people talking about how it is a must win scenario where Daniel Bryan or bust or I get that people are big fans of Daniel Bryan. I am a big fan of Dean Ambrose. I don't think anybody would question that in their right minds, but I'm also reasonable enough to know that his momentum has died enough that he should not win the Royal Rumble. And I think that Daniel Bryan fans still think that 2015 Daniel Bryan is as over as 2014 Daniel Bryan was. And now, don't get me wrong, 2015 Daniel Bryan may as well still be the most over pure babyface in the WWE right now. He may be, but he's not anywhere close to as ridiculously over as he was last year at this time.
I have to agree. I mean, here's my thing. I was so happy for Daniel Bryan in WrestleMania 30. I loved his whole story, everything else. The guy got injured, and he
Yeah.
lost all this momentum, and he's just now coming back, and I
And hey, you
popped.
know what? Here's my thing. Bryan has, if he can stay healthy for another calendar year, there is all the potential in the world that he could regain his momentum in time for next year's WrestleMania.
And I
Bryan
completely agree.
Bryan is by no means an old son of a gun. He's, what is he, 33, 34 maybe at the oldest? He's
Yeah.
got plenty of time left. He's got plenty left in the tank. As long as his body doesn't fail him, he is going to main event another WrestleMania. And my guess is it'll happen sooner than later.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't the end for Daniel Bryan by any means, guys. I mean,
But,
it's.
but this year, it makes little to no sense. He is coming off of a major injury. He
Right.
is he is coming off of a major injury. He was out for 8 months. And if he would win the Royal Rumble, he would be going against Brock freaking Lesnar.
Yeah, I mean, which is his dream match, and I know is a lot of matches of his fans. But I mean, it's like you brought up to me in conversation. A
For
lot of
God's
people,
sakes, Lesnar working The Undertaker gave the guy a freaking concussion. What would happen if he worked Bryan?
and that's what I worry about, and I'm sure a lot of other fans would worry about. Now, again, I feel for Bryan because I've read multiple interviews now where he's like, I want Lesnar more than anybody. I want to work with Lesnar. I
And
want a
and
match
if
with
we're
Lesnar.
if we're being completely real with each other, I don't necessarily, and I want to emphasize the word necessarily, I don't necessarily think that Brock Lesnar is out the door after WrestleMania. I think there's a chance, but realistically, I think that he is using this MMA thing as a bargaining chip to make more money from Vince.
And you know what? I can understand that because here's the thing: whether you love Brock Lesnar or not, and I've grown more sympathetic to this view anyway as I've gotten older, so I'm not even going to come up here and stand on my high horse and be like, how dare they ask for more money, this and that. No, after when you hear CM Punk talk and other guys talk, no, when you can get the money, you get it. What is Brock Lesnar first and foremost? He is a businessman. He recognizes himself as a brand first and foremost. And this could be a power grab. This could be, hey, Vince, if you're not willing to shed some extra cash, I've got offers elsewhere, and I can go back here, and I can be a media sensation there, and I can dominate. And to me, I feel like there is so much value, and I'll stand by this. Does it annoy me sometimes that Brock Lesnar appears so infrequently? Yeah, I'll admit, I can fall under that sometimes. But man, when he gets on the TV, he commands attention like nobody else.
Oh,
I
and
think.
that's one other thing that I wanted to say.
Okay.
A lot of people are saying that Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble would get booed. First of all, I do genuinely doubt that it'll get booed. I think that Roman Reigns getting booed because it's in Philadelphia is the people that think that are probably the same people that thought that Hulk Hogan and Sting would get booed for TNA when they were in Philly. And that match ended up getting received incredibly well.
Yeah.
I think that Roman Reigns is a lot more over than a lot of people want to give him credit for. I think that when somebody gets it in their head that the crowd is reacting a certain way to somebody, they get a confirmation bias where they hear even the faintest of boos, and they go, "Oh, that's it right there. He's getting booed. That's confirmation right there that he's not as over. That he's getting booed. That the crowd's starting to turn on him." When realistically, it's most likely just a small section of hardcore internet marks, just like us, who think that Roman Reigns isn't ready yet and doesn't deserve to win the Royal Rumble.
It's such a dynamic this year because I know the debate that's been raging on. I mean, hell, me,
To
personally,
me, what's funniest is that the debate that's going on is whether Roman Reigns should win the Royal Rumble, as if the fans have any control over it.
I know,
Well, I
because
don't know, John. Do you think we should put Reigns over, or should we just go with the safe choice and stick with Bryan?
yeah, I don't know. Our buy rates have really been suffering lately. I think we should just do Brian. Let's pander to him one more time. Couldn't hurt. And
Yeah.
it's like it carries some kind of credence or something. Now look, everybody knows. I mean, you and I, when we put our fan cabs on and we mark out, I know you'd lose your damn mind if Dean Ambrose won the Royal
Oh
Rumble.
my God, absolutely. I would love for no other reason, just to see the look in his eye when he gets a kendo stick and Brock Lesnar's back is turned to him. I would love to see Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar in some kind of an Extreme Rules street fight style match. But
Yeah,
realistically, if this is Brock's last WrestleMania with the company, it needs to be Reigns. It needs to. You say what you want about Reigns not being ready. Say what you want about Reigns not being the next guy. Say what you want about Reigns not being good enough. It's his time.
it's his time, and here's my thing. I mean, same way with me. Subjectively, I'd probably RKO my own grandmother to get Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar. I want
Yeah,
that
I
match
know, and
back.
that's another one. I think that the stress, the amount of stress that's been caused by this Royal Rumble is directly due to the rumors that Brock is leaving. Because if we knew that we had Brock for another 2 or 3 years and we could fit all of these awesome fantasy matches in that time, I don't think anyone would be stressing out about which one came first.
Right,
But the
right.
fact that a lot of people, if not almost everybody, has themselves convinced that this is Brock's last WrestleMania, and after that he's going back to MMA and he's leaving us again for good. It's causing people to freak out because they're basically saying you can only have one match, and they're picking the guy that they think would put on the best match, quote unquote best match, based on the fact that Daniel Bryan is this ridiculous in-ring guy. Whereas to me, Daniel Bryan is already made. Daniel Bryan doesn't need another big WrestleMania win under his belt in order to be the guy. Daniel Bryan is already made. He already is the guy. You know who could really use a big WrestleMania win to get some credibility back? Is Roman freaking Reigns.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, because you and I, what are we above all else? I would like to think that we're very pragmatic in our approach when we discuss it here, anyway, in this venue of TwitWow. And yeah, I just think Roman Reigns is the ultimate beneficiary for a match like this. I think it is going to happen. And you know what? As far as the Lesnar rumors, just to comment on that very, very quickly, and then there's one other comment I want to make after that, and then I'll personally be done my whole piece on this. I'm going to have to side with you. For whatever reason, I just don't think Brock is done. I think they'd make a bigger production of it. The only thing that kind of makes me believe that they may be done, and I kind of talked about this, I felt like they somewhat teased tension between him and Heyman because Heyman could not reel Brock in on Monday. So I don't know if that may be a way, like, oh, he turns on Brock and then Brock's better. But then again, you again see a lot of things I say you could
And
show
that's
arguments for
another
both
thing that
sides.
you didn't even bring up was you've been talking for so long now. You think that Heyman's going to turn on Brock
Yeah, I think Heyman is going to turn on Brock at some point.
for
Uh,
Rollins.
yeah, for Rollins. But see, here's the thing. a lot of the statements that I make, while I believe, the bad thing about them is I think you can make arguments for, well, why does it have to be against a certain thing when it could be just as much for? Because the thing is, that's another reason for Brock to stay around if he wanted to go after Heyman and his new associate.
Right.
Because Brock's not somebody to walk away when he's been stabbed in the back. He didn't do it in 2002. He hunted Heyman like a dog until he got his hands on him. I doubt much has changed despite
Right.
all the
And
years that
even
have
if you look
passed.
at this most recent episode of Raw, to close the show, Brock was basically a babyface.
Yeah. But here's the
And
thing.
and that's another thing that I actually wanted to get around to. All the
Yeah.
people talking about Roman Reigns is going to get booed. I already said I don't think it's going to happen. I think that people are blowing it out of proportion. But if it does, if Roman Reigns gets booed out of the building and people hate him and the crowd does in fact turn on him, he's better as a heel anyway.
Yeah. And you more than anybody, you want to talk about like me, all this talk about Heyman turning on Brock. It's been you that's really been espousing since the beginning. Since hell, you've been saying it for as long as when the rumors of the Shield breaking up really started bubbling up to the surface in an intense way, saying, "Oh, this is perfect. Just get the Reigns heel turn out early.
Yep.
Let him have his heel run. Let him have it." And you have been on that pulpit for forever now, and I've agreed with you every step of the way. But here's my concluding sentiment as far as Roman Reigns is concerned. I really don't think, and this is going to sound so bad, but I don't mean it that way. I think I don't care as much as so many other people do because I'm trying to look at the bigger picture and what I personally believe. And what is the one thing I've been saying above all else, Ashton?
Rollins cashes in.
Rollins cashes in. I think we're going to have Reigns to be champion for like 5 seconds.
Right, exactly.
Rollins is going
And
to
that's
cash
another
in.
thing that a lot of people are overlooking because to me, when you talk about Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, the amount of suspension of disbelief that I would lose in that match is not worth the, and not even just me, the amount of suspension of disbelief that every mainstream / casual fan watching this show would lose due to that match, due to Daniel Bryan getting any level of offense whatsoever in that match, is not worth the 20 to 30% of hardcore Daniel Bryan fans that make up the audience being happy about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I have to agree. I just feel like
It's like, why would the WWE? Because here's my thing. A long time, it's not even that long ago, maybe like 5 years ago, Eric Bischoff said something about how, the internet only makes up, the internet fans only make up like 10% of the audience. Well, I mean, if we're talking TNA, it's more like 80%. But in WWE, I do think that number's a little low. I think that a more accurate number would be around 25%.
right.
But regardless, it is a minority. So why would the WWE pander to the minority when Roman Reigns is over in the eyes of the majority?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it makes no sense. When you're a business and you're trying to build something, you're always going to try and go with what's the most profitable. Now, I'm not saying Daniel Bryan couldn't yield a profit, but again, it goes back to your earlier comments. I think people think that Roman Reigns is just this almost universally loathed character. Not even close. I think his promos have been bad? Yes, but again, I've eased up on that because the reports have
But
been
again, though,
rightfully
yeah, and
bad.
that's the thing. Like, the promos that have been bad, you can tell that it's Vince McMahon writing the promos. When he gets on the mic on Saturday and he talks about how Andre the Giant never had to tell anyone about how he was a giant every week, and then he talks about how it's one versus all and you're looking at the one. I love that. He needs to be able to speak in sound bites.
Yeah, and you and I have been saying that forever now. So it's not like it's this new narrative. You and I have always said Reigns is the type of
Yeah,
character. Succinctness is money for
yeah.
Roman Reigns.
And like it goes back to it was one episode right after, I think it might have been the week after Rollins turned heel and he broke up the Shield, and Reigns was in the ring and the crowd was going, Cena sucks, Cena sucks, and he goes, when Roman Reigns is in the building, you damn right Cena sucks. And to me, that's the Roman Reigns that we need.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Ashton, at the risk of kind of overreaching here, which I know I have a tendency to do at times, I am that self-aware. I think what kind of confounds me, I'm actually surprised more people aren't going with Roman Reigns. I get the fervor for Daniel Bryan in the fandom. I get that.
See, but that's the thing, is blind fandom has overtaken so many people's ability to be objective.
But what surprises me, Ashton, and you can agree or disagree, but I'm actually surprised that more people aren't picking Roman Reigns because the way I envision it, we've already talked about, Rollins cashing in. Reigns wins the championship, maybe gets
Right.
to celebrate for like a minute, 2
Well,
minutes.
see, but that's the
Rollins
thing, though, John. They're not picking Daniel Bryan based on they want Daniel Bryan to be champion. They're picking Daniel Bryan based on match quality.
Yeah, because
Again, it's a very, very, very smarky term to use.
Yeah.
This idea that the Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar is the best possible match that Brock Lesnar can put on before he leaves, and then that Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins is the best possible feud for Rollins after he cashes in. In my opinion, I don't care whether your match quality is putting on 4.5 and 5-star matches. To me, as long as the matches are good enough.
Yeah.
They're not. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are not going to go out there and put on stinkers every night. This is another thing. I think that Roman Reigns proved at Royal Rumble or not at Royal Rumble. We're talking about Royal Rumble now. At SummerSlam, that he is fully capable of putting on a very good match as long as he's in there with somebody that can carry him to one. And
right.
It's the Charlotte factor. Charlotte Flair in NXT is good. She's not great. She can put on great matches as long as whoever she's with can carry her to them. And she's a great champion because of that. Roman Reigns is the same way. He will be a great champion because he'll be able to put on great matches with anybody that is able to carry him to them. Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan if Roman Reigns ends up turning heel, Brock Lesnar. There's a long list of guys that Reigns is going to be able to put good matches. Heck, even Randy Orton. And I think people are overlooking that because all they see is Roman Reigns sucks in the ring. Roman Reigns sucks on the mic. To me, Reigns is good on the mic in certain situations. And I think that if he was in a feud with Brock Lesnar, which obviously he would be leading up to Mania, he's not going to be cutting Looney Tunes promos. He's not going to be cutting frickin' Jack and the Beanstalk promos. He's going to get more serious because he's going against an opponent that forces you to take him serious.
I think Reigns will get a huge pop. I can already see as a Mania moment Reigns spearing Heyman at one point. If Heyman is still with Lesnar, because I do feel a double cross coming, but I don't really know the context in which it'll unfold. But my big point, so I don't lose it, that I was making about why I'm surprised more people aren't picking Reigns, because to me, once Rollins cashes in and that whole explosion, occurs, I think we're going to get so much Shield-heavy programming over that championship because I think Dean Ambrose will get back in the fray too.
Yep.
Dean Ambrose is not done with Seth Rollins.
Yep.
And I hope people didn't forget that Dean Ambrose has beef with Seth Rollins because I sure as hell didn't. He hates Seth Rollins, and I think they left the ending in Hell in a Cell as they did for a reason.
No, they didn't. Yeah, the reason was so that we could kick off Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt. That's the only freaking
maybe, but at the same time, I think they knew. And again, this is just me, but
You're giving them way too much credit, dude.
Well, maybe, but I'm standing by it. I think they knew they were going to go back to this, and I think the WWE World Heavyweight Championship picture in 2015 is going to be dominated by the Shield.
Yeah. And I think that it will ultimately lead to a WrestleMania 32 Shield triple threat.
Oh, dude, we've been wanting that triple threat forever. It's got to happen soon enough. I mean,
it's got to happen, and then a year or two later, maybe they'll get back together for a couple months.
Yeah. But I mean that's really what I see as far as the end game, the bigger picture. That's what I'm seeing, man. Is this whole Shield collision, and that's why I don't mind Roman Reigns, having this kind of performance and doing all these things. I get it. Everybody, wants that big match. Daniel Bryan, Brock Lesnar. Obviously not my first choice, and I know Ashton just said about
No, I think that would be like my fourth choice if we're being completely honest. Like I would prefer Orton for sure. Orton, to me, if I could have any match, Brock Lesnar versus any one guy in the WWE, my number one choice is Randy Orton because that's the match that we've been wanting for 15 years now and still haven't gotten, and the WWE has even had an opportunity to give it to us and they just straight up didn't because apparently Cena Lesnar 4 is more important. But and then number two choice for me would be Dean Ambrose in an Extreme Rules style match. And then I don't know at number 3 if I would even pick Bryan over Reigns because of again, the suspension of disbelief. Because Bryan, now, and here's my thing. People will bring up Chris Benoit. People will bring up Eddie Guerrero. Bryan is about 5'9", about 180 pounds. Benoit and Guerrero were short, but they were both freaking jacked. And they both had a vicious side that Bryan showed on the indies, but has not ever been, I don't know if I should say been able to, or just flat out hasn't shown in the WWE.
The only times I've ever really seen Bryan show a vicious side to somewhat play devil's advocate, his 2 out of 3 falls match against Sheamus, because he really just beat the crap out of him. And I think that one street fight he had with Randy Orton, but of course anybody can have a vicious side when weapons and everything are abound. To me, Daniel Bryan's pretty low on my totem pole for Lesnar dream matches. Like you, Orton's number 1. Honestly, my number 2 would either be like a Bray Wyatt or a Ryback.
Yeah, Ryback. I just thought of Ryback too. That's another one.
Ryback Lesnar, I think would be cool, especially because after seeing the match Ryback versus Rusev from this past Thursday on
Yeah,
SmackDown, I just feel like Ryback is capable of those great big man matches. And think about the clinics that him and Sheamus have had. I think him and Lesnar would be able to put on something similar.
yep.
That's another one too. For as much as I dislike Sheamus, I've always credited him for his in-ring work. I'd be intrigued to a degree about Lesnar's
Sheamus
things.
Lesnar, that would be crazy.
Yeah, see, like to
Or
me,
and then another one. No, you know what? This is my real number 2. I love Dean Ambrose, but my real number 2 behind Orton, Cesaro.
oh God, remember when we thought that had a viable chance of happening?
Yep.
God, where the
Good
times have
times.
gone.
Good times.
You know what? And that's another thing too. You want to talk about heartbreak? At least Daniel Bryan is in the Royal Rumble, and he's had all this talk about an incredible chance of winning. I honestly thought that this should have been Cesaro's Rumble if they had built him up properly. So yeah, I've still got kind of sour grapes because that's another one. But he's fallen so far down the totem pole. But regardless, to me, Daniel Bryan does rank pretty low, guys, if I'm being honest. Again, it's not me trying to start anything of this
No,
and that.
again, it's not us not fans of Daniel Bryan. We both
Right.
absolutely love Daniel Bryan, but it's a matter of suspension of disbelief. And for us, I think that I can speak for both of us. John, if I step out of line or if I say something you disagree with, please say something.
Of
But
course.
what we look for in a Brock Lesnar match is the spectacle. We want to see two guys. It's a clash of the titans. We want to see two guys going at it. They're going to beat the living crap out of each other. And we want that big moment where the other guy lifts Brock Lesnar up and gives us that, oh my God, Brock Lesnar isn't the most dominant human being on the planet moment.
And this is probably the only time. This is probably going to be the most dickish moment, so to speak, that I have here. Because if you notice, Asher, with my language, I've tried to be very respectful, very cautious with my wording. But this is probably going to be where I really come off looking dickish. Because you mentioned earlier that people invoke the argument, well, Benoit and Guerrero. And not only did you bring up a good point when you talk about the build of those competitors, think about Brock Lesnar in those respective time periods. This Brock Lesnar that we're looking at right now not only ended the streak, which should be enough by itself to even end the argument, he
Exactly. Yeah, no kidding.
decimated John Cena at
Yep.
SummerSlam. And what was so funny is I actually heard some Daniel Bryan fans say, "Oh, well, if it was Daniel Bryan, that wouldn't have happened to him." Yes, it
No,
would
no,
have.
no, no, no. What those people don't understand is Cena was the substitute in that match.
Yeah.
That beating was meant for Daniel Bryan, and maybe, just maybe, if that actually would have happened, people wouldn't be cheering for Brock Lesnar right now like they are, because they would be so incredibly enraged by the fact that he squashed Daniel Bryan, which realistically he did to John Cena, that they would just see red every time his face showed up on the screen.
I'll tell you something, and again, this is not to be in a bad way. This is just how I see it. Daniel Bryan getting hurt the way he did changed the dynamic of everything.
It
Because
did. And not only did it change that match, but it changed people's perception of him, because now there are apologists who think that even though he took 8 months off and he hasn't been around and he doesn't have credibility anymore, that he still deserves a WrestleMania main event. And then there are other people who think that he took that time off and now he doesn't deserve a WrestleMania main event because he hasn't been around.
right. I mean, again, it's this huge dichotomy. And to me, like injury, which I think happens when you've got like any guy that's reached a level of over that Brian has and he's got the belt. It's had ripple effects everywhere, including, I mean, this Rumble. It certainly touched this Rumble. And, to me, if it was Brian, I think, and maybe hell, I'll even go this far. Maybe if it was Brian, maybe I'd be more sympathetic to wanting to see the rematch and seeing Brian get his redemption. But I'm just not feeling it. I'm not. I
But
mean,
my thing is, if it was Brian, do we really think that they would have had the rematch at Night of Champions and Brian would have gotten that close to beating Lesnar?
see, I don't think so. If I'm being honest again, I think it would. I think it would have really gotten demolished again. It would have been a more game effort, but not by much.
Yeah.
This is a Brock Lesnar people that kills people, that really just goes in and destroys. Brian is an amazing athlete, a phenomenal technical wrestler, and everybody knows I love me some technical wrestlers, okay? But Lesnar is on another freaking level right now, and when you put somebody against Lesnar, I've got to be willing to believe that that guy can take Lesnar to the limit and even beat him. I think Randy Orton has that credibility. I think Reigns, when you look at his performance in the Rumble last year and the things that he does when he has to go into second gear, like being a sole survivor at Survivor Series and other things, he
Yep.
has the credentials to beat a Brock Lesnar. He does. He's got the power game. He's got, the moments behind him. And I think they'll really create an atmosphere. This is not the same Brock Lesnar that you guys invoke the argument, oh, well, Eddie Guerrero beat him and Benoit beat him. To me, that's not even legitimate because A, the argument's Ashen laid, and two, not the same Lesnar. This guy is a freak, people. And I just can't buy Daniel Bryan beating a freak like that.
Yeah.
I can't.
I mean, back then, Brock Lesnar would gain heat by beating down little guys. I mean, Zach Gowen, look no further.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned that because that's the thing. You're talking about that Brock Lesnar. One of his biggest moments as a heat magnet was beating up a wrestler, which no disrespect to Zach Allen, but got the babyface pops they did in sympathy because it was such an inspirational story because he was handicapped, because he had this disability. So Brock Lesnar was literally reduced at that time to beating up handicapped people.
Right.
I mean, let's call a spade here. Whereas
And I
this
hate to be that guy, but Zach Gowen was also taller than Daniel Bryan.
right though, like and we're not even trying to be mean, but this Brock Lesnar, you know how he got heat this time? He ended the greatest streak in freaking sports entertainment. I mean, hell, that's what Michael Cole's been saying. That's what everybody's been saying. Look at shocked Undertaker streak guy. That moment's gonna live forever.
Yep.
That's Brock Lesnar. Not anybody can just walk up and say, I'm gonna beat that guy. And for as great as Daniel Bryan is, if he went in there, I would actually feel sorry for Daniel Bryan because I think, oh my God, somebody's about to get murdered. And that's the truth. I just feel like after seeing John Cena get
The
decimated
whole
the way
the
he did
whole
in
idea with
SummerSlam.
WrestleMania is you want people to buy the show and you want people to buy tickets to see the show. And
Yeah.
the only people that would want to see Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar are sadists
Yeah.
and hardcore, the hardest of hardcore Daniel Bryan fans. And I will say, Brock Lesnar fans who hate wrestling and want to see him beat the living crap out of this puny wrestler.
Oh man, that's really all I have to say about that before we get circular and I get repetitive.
Again though, it comes back to with Roman Reigns, people would buy that show because they want to see Reigns beat Lesnar because
Yeah,
they think he can.
Yeah, they want to see somebody topple Lesnar. I will say it is a bit concerning that Lesnar came off looking like such a babyface on the Go Home show because I was really hoping that
But
we.
again, though, that goes back to Reigns. If Reigns turns heel, Reigns versus Lesnar, fine. Lesnar retains, Reigns beats him up after the match, and Rollins cashes in on Lesnar instead. It's a win-win situation there. If you have Daniel Bryan in that role, first of all, Daniel Bryan's not turning heel. But second of all, if they manage to somehow turn the crowd to the point that they could actually pull off a Daniel Bryan heel turn, who is going to believe that post-match beatdown?
Yeah, I mean, what is he gonna do? Be recovering in the corner? Lesnar turns around and Bryan gets a Busaiku knee kick. Because to me, the thing of that is by the time Rollins gets down, Lesnar have already started recovering, and maybe Rollins would get a curb stomp, but I just couldn't buy it. Whereas a spear, I think Lesnar could sell it like Reigns broke his damn ribs, and then Rollins capitalizes and does all that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude. Guys, I mean, it all comes to a head tomorrow night. So I mean, Ashton, is there anything else you really wanted to hash out or discuss? Because I've pretty much said that all I feel like I need to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to lose my voice. We need to preserve our voices for the actual Rumble live reactions tomorrow. Before we close out, I'm just going to let you guys know, those of you that were around with us last year, you know that we did our little game where each of us picked 5 numbers to represent our teams in the Royal Rumble, and whoever had the winning member on their team won. Last year, my mom won because she had the number 28. This year, though, all 3 of us, my mom, John, and I, rather than only picking 5 numbers each, which leaves the option that any one of 15 different people could win and leave no winners for either of the 3 of us, we each picked 10 numbers so that we could guarantee a winner, and we each have a full roster of 10 representatives in the Royal Rumble. Tell you what, let's just run through it real quick. My mom's representatives are numbers 27, 28, 17, 24, 6, 10, 18, 4, 19, and 14. My representatives, and I actually have them listed here in actual order, are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 21, 23, 26, 29, and 30. And John, if you want to run through yours real quick and we can close this out.
My representatives are 16, 25, 1, 22, 8, 20, 13, 9, 15, and 12.
All right, so we kind of have 3 different games going on. We have the Royal Rumble pay-per-view predictions, which is everything leading up to the match but not including the match. We have the match predictions themselves, which are the point value assigned of confidence kind of thing. And then, of course, we have the more random, you pick a number and hope that the guy representing you doesn't suck kind of thing. So those are our 3 games that we're going to be playing this year. Hopefully, we'll actually have a definitive person who wins the most of those 3 games, rather than like last year where one of us won 1, the other one won, and the other one won. It was just a tie. But yeah, this is what we're doing. We hope that you guys enjoyed our preview predictions. I know we have. I'm sure that we've created a few angry people, if not maybe a few enemies. I don't know.
Ashton, the villages are burning.
But regardless, I know that we both enjoyed talking this out. We've got a lot of stuff that we've finally been able to get off our chest that we've been thinking for weeks. Feels great.
Yeah.
And we are super pumped to do live reactions tomorrow. And we will see you guys then.
Oh, yeah.